Okay, let's talk about part two. Kathy, she is going for a run, and let's see, she's running for 30 minutes at a rate of 5.5 miles per hour. So something we have to understand that rate multiplied with time equals distance. Let's say hypothetically, let's say my rate is 50 miles per hour, and I am driving along and I drive for 2 hours. 50 miles per hour for 2 hours is 100 miles. Okay, you're just taking 50 times 2. All right, so if Kathy ran for 30 minutes, that is 0.5 hours. She ran at a pace of 5.5 miles per hour. What was her distance? So we multiply those together, and we will get 2.75 miles. That's how far she traveled. Then she ran for 15 minutes, so that is 0.25 hours. That's 1/4 of an hour. We multiply that with 6 miles per hour, and we will get 1.5. So in those 15 minutes, she ran 1.5 miles. We add that to the 2.75, and we should get 4.25 miles total. 21. 6-foot tall man casts a shadow that is 9 feet long. So here we're standing 6 feet, 9 feet. A tree casts a shadow that's 48 feet long. So here's our tree. There's 48 feet. How tall is the tree? That's the question mark. So for this, we just set up a proportion. Now there's a number of different ways you can set this up, but what we're going to do is we have to create two fractions here that equal each other. And I'm going to use 6 on top here. Now the number I can put on bottom right here is what? It can either be 9 because that deals with the man, or it could be the question mark because that deals with the height of the objects. So I'm just going to go with 9 here. Then we got to set up our other proportion the same way. So if I do 6 over 9, then that has to equal our question mark over 48. And I just solved that proportion. So you remember cross multiplying, I hope. 9 times x is 9x, and that will equal 6 times 48, which is 288, I believe. Check in your calculator to make sure that works. 6 times 48. From there, I divide by 9, and you get 32. So A is going to be your answer here. That's how tall the tree is. 22 is done the same way. These are similar triangles, so we can do 20 over what? We have two choices. We can do 20 over 32 because it's in the same triangle, or we can do 20 over x because those are corresponding parts. I'm going to do 20 over x. If I do 20 over x, then how do I set up my fraction for 32 and 24? So the first triangle, the information from that is on top. The second triangle is a part of my denominators. Now we cross multiply again. 32 times x is 32x. 24 times 20 is 480, and then we divide by 32. And 4x, we will get 15. 23. Out of the 4 options here, which one of those 4 options will form a right triangle? If you remember back from the 8th grade, or a squared plus b squared equals c squared, that's Pythagorean theorem. C would be the longest side in your triangle. So the longest side on A would be 17. So we have to check to see, we're going to take 12 and square it. That's 144. Take 13 and square it. You get 169. And we're going to see if that equals 17 squared. Now 17 times 17 is 289. Right now, check in your calculator to see if 144 plus 169 is 289. So they're not going to be equal. Okay, 144 plus 169 does not equal 289. So we're going to do the next one. Take 3.2, square it, you get 10.24 plus 5.6 and square it, you get 31.36. Does that equal 6.4 squared? Well, 6.4 times 6.4 is 40.96. So, add these together. Do you get 40.96? And the answer is no. Right now, I want you to pause the video. And if you have this incorrect already, or you're still not sure, now hopefully you know how to do this, I want you to figure out between C and D what's going to be a right triangle. So go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, so now that you've already paused it, now we're replaying it, I assume. And we're going to take 14 squared, that is 196. 20 squared is 400. And 24 squared is 576. These do not equal each other, so it must be D, right? I'm hoping. 10 squared is 100. 24 squared is 576. And 26 squared is 676. So in this case, A squared plus B squared does equal C squared. So 10, 24, and 26 could be three sides to a right triangle. 24. We want to convert 35 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit. And this is the equation we use to do that conversion. So we're going to plug in 35 for C. So it's going to be F equals 9/5. In place for C is going to be 35. And then plus 32. From here to solve for F, we're going to take 9 times 35 and then divide by 5. And you're going to get 63. 63 plus 32 is 95. So you have your answer, H. 25. $15 miles per hour is how fast the bowling ball is traveling. How fast would that be if we convert to feet per second? So what we have to do is set up basically fractions that we're going to do conversion by multiplying fractions together. I'm going to write 15 miles over 1 hour. I'm going to multiply that by 1 hour over 3,600 seconds. There are 3,600 seconds in 1 hour. 60 times 60. So if I do that conversion, if I multiply those two fractions together, my hours will cancel out because you have hours on top and on bottom. And now it's in the form of miles per second, which is not very much. It's going to be a very small number. So now we're going to convert that to feet per second. So now since I have the miles on top, I'm going to put the miles on bottom over here and feet on top. 1 mile is 5,280 feet. And now the miles will cancel because you got one on bottom and one on top. So now it's in feet per second. All we have to do is type in our calculator 15 times by 5,280 and then divide by 3,600. We don't need to worry about multiplying or dividing by the ones because that's not going to change anything. So do that right now. You got about 10 seconds. And you should confirm that you're going to get 22 feet per second. Okay, so now let's go to the top here and check these. On top, 26, we're going to find the median. The median of a box and whisker plot is going to be 15 right here. So your answer is just 15. That's pretty straightforward. That's the median. 27. Between which 2 days was the greatest increase in number of hours we spent working on our science experiment? So if we go day 1, we only spent, it looks like, 30 minutes, a half an hour. Day 2, we spent 30 minutes again. So there was no increase. But all of a sudden, from day 2 to day 3, we had an increase. From day 5 to day 6, there was an increase. Day 7 to day 8, there was an increase. And day 9 to day 10, there was an increase. Which one of those had the largest increase? That's from day 7 to day 8. Day 7, it looks like we studied for 2 hours. Day 8, we studied for 4 hours. That was a 2-hour increase, the largest one throughout those 10 days. So from day 7 to day 8, that's your answer. 28. You got 4 exams. So 4 exams. And what do we need to get on the last exam to average 90% for the 5 exams? So what we have to do is add these numbers up right now. So go ahead and add those numbers up if you haven't already. And I believe you get 352. That's for 4 exams. The 5th exam, I'm just going to add X. How do I find the average of 5 exams now? Well, we add those together and divide by 5. We want that to equal 90. So now we're just going to solve the equation. X is on the left side, so you have to get rid of everything else, which means you got to get rid of the 5 and the 352. How do we make the 352, or actually, how do we get rid of the 5? That's what we get rid of first, times by 5. So we get 352 plus X equals 450, and then we're going to subtract 352. So we'll go ahead and do that right now. I believe you get 98. So the answer here is 98. 29, the number of points scored by a basketball team over the first 8 games are all set out right here. How much will their average game score increase if we scored 93 in the next game? So first, let's find out the average of these 8 scores right here, the average. I need you to add them together and divide by 8. Pause the video right now to do that. So if you add those together and divide by 8, your average will be 70.5. Now, take 70.5 in your calculator and go ahead and times by 8. That will give you the total that you will score for those 8 games. And then add 93 to that number, which will be your 9th game, and divide by 9. And you're going to get 73. So what is your increase in points per game? 2.5. Okay, we just have 3 questions we're going to finish up with here. First, write the product of z and x minus y. Well, product means multiplication. So we have z times the, and now don't write z times x minus y, because now we are not multiplying z with the entire chunk here of x minus y. So we need parentheses. That's why A is your answer. Solve the equation on number 2. We're going to subtract 7 on each side. Then we're going to divide by 7 and you get d equals 1. So H is the answer there. And now we just 8 times negative 9 for number 3. That's negative 72. We're going to take negative 6, because that is the negative is attached to the 6. Negative 6 times negative 3 is positive 18. And you work that out and you're going to get negative 54. And that completes part 2